Have you thought about how many trips do you take every day? Have you thought about how many times a day do you use your car? To go to the office, to go to the park, to go to a friend's house, to go to the supermarket. For the kids here tonight, have you thought about how many times do you get on board your parents' car? Many, many, many times a day, probably. 3, 4, 5, 6. We're traveling every day. We're moving around every day. We need to move around to live, to do the things that we love, to do the things that we don't like, or the things that we like. But we're constantly moving. We live in a world that is moving and moving and moving all the time. And most of the time that we do that, we're using our vehicles. I was having a conversation with my kids over Thanksgiving last year, and I asked them the question, would you go to school riding your bike if someone pays you to do so? And they were intrigued. And then I asked another question, and I said, would you go to practice riding your bike if you get paid for it? And so as teenagers, the immediate question back was, well, how much would I get paid? And so I thought about it, and I continued the conversation saying, you know that if you would do things like that, you will be contributing to the planet, you will be working towards climate change, and you will be doing something good for the environment. And the minute I started to say that, I thought that I was starting to lose their interest. And their attention started to shift away, little by little. I think at some point I heard someone saying, that's a stupid idea. And so I think that we have a problem. I think that everybody recognizes the fact that we have a challenge, that we need to do something about it, but most of us do not know what to do. Because if I ask anyone here tonight, do you know what your carbon footprint is? Does anyone here has the answer for that? Does anyone know what your carbon footprint is? Your personal carbon footprint? I don't. And so I think that part of the challenge has to do with the fact that we have not been part of the equation. As individuals, we have not been part of actually contributing to reduce carbon emissions. And so, we had a thought, and we had an idea. If carbon emissions account for almost 1/3 coming from transportation, we might have an opportunity there. We might have an opportunity to do things that could actually help us all, because we love this island where we live in. This island is a very unique and beautiful place, surrounded by water, surrounded by nature. It's just very unique and beautiful. But we can lose all of this. As dramatic as it sounds, it might be gone one day if we don't start to make a change. The numbers are huge. The numbers are really, really large. If you think about carbon, if you think about traveling, so think about it. These are very short distance trips, and most of the time we're traveling in our vehicles. So there might be plenty of opportunity to change our behavior, to start to think about walking, using electric vehicles, using public transportation, riding our bicycles, and we might be able to actually get something from it. So we thought about a circular economy, a carbon marketplace that doesn't exist today. But the good idea is that we can create that. And so think about you taking a decision, changing your behavior, and doing that extra effort, going that extra mile to walk to your office from your home here in Key Biscayne and getting a digital token for doing that effort. Imagine riding your bicycle to school and getting a digital token for making that effort. And once you get that digital token, it will go to a digital wallet. And so you might be wondering, and then what? Who is going to give me the value that I deserve for changing my behavior and doing the right thing? Well, there's many companies around the world, corporations, that have to comply with their carbon reduction emissions, that invest millions of dollars, billions of dollars today, trying to find out how to comply for their carbon emissions. And so those companies will be more than happy to buy those tokens directly from you. Imagine a company like Nike. Some of us love Nike. Imagine Nike acquiring your digital tokens in exchange of the fact that when you did that extra effort, you were wearing Nike shoes. Nike will love to be part of a marketplace like this. And every time you do it, you continue to acquire value for yourself. You continue to get digital tokens while you're doing the right thing for the world. I came here today on an electric golf cart. Imagine your digital wallets. Imagine that every time you ride a bicycle, you get 3 tokens for doing that. Every time you go on an electric vehicle, you get 1 token. Every time you walk, you get 5 tokens, and so on. So I came here from my house. It was like a 1.4 mile trip on my electric golf cart, and I got 1 token for that into my digital wallet. And throughout the week, imagine the times that I decided to ride my bike to go to the village green, to go to the supermarket, to go to the gym, when I went to the office, and so on and so forth. So imagine that for 1 week, I took certain decisions that allow me to get 48 digital tokens on that week. At any given point, I can sell those tokens to any of the companies that are looking to purchase carbon offsets, to be able to contribute to the fact that they're generating emissions because of what they do as a company. Ten years ago, if I asked you this question, would you stay in a stranger's apartment? A complete stranger. You're going to Paris, you love Paris, it's your dream to go to Paris, it's your romantic trip. You might get engaged in Paris, and I would have told you, you should stay in someone's apartment, somebody that you've never met. You would probably have thought that I was crazy. Imagine if somebody would have told you 10 years ago, can I rent your home for the summer? Somebody that you have never met. And today, there's a company that has been around for a little longer than 10 years that is part of our everyday lives, that we take for granted. Nobody doubts using a company that is part of what we call the shared economy today. We all love it, we all use it. But only 10 years ago, we would have thought that someone was crazy. So the lesson number 1 that we have to learn from the fantastic technologies that we have available today is to believe in the impossible. We all love Mario. Can we imagine a world where we're getting tokens every time we're going around? Every time we're doing the right thing for the environment? Every time we do that right thing, we do that precise thing that requires a little more effort, but we get paid for it. But we get a reward for doing the right thing. At the beginning, it might sound impossible. It might sound very difficult. But let's think about it as a community. Can we make the effort? Can we make a change? My personal challenge is to be able to convince my 3 teenage kids who are sitting here tonight that being part of the carbon reduction economy is something cool. So I plant the idea for all of us here to think about reducing carbon emissions and getting paid for it, while we are at the same time contributing to make the world a better place. Thank you.